as of now, whatever we have discussed is related to a single object. Today, we will first check about the set data, which we set values that we are trying yesterday, which was not worked. This thing we will first check. Then we will talk about how we can load a information which is in the list or having a list as a return type. We will also discuss some interview questions related to JSON, whatever we have discussed on the JSON and all those topics, so that the some key areas will get covered. So see, actually, in yesterday, we are using this set values and adding the value here directly. The problem with this stage is since the data of the extract data raptor is loaded, but the changes that we did in the step was not loaded, right? That's why it was always showing as true, because it was treating a new entry as a as a change. So what I mean by that, initially when you define anything, it will be draft as a null, and when you assign something, the new value get assigned, right? So that's why our tag, which was tracking the exact changes, it was actually showing as true all the times, even we are not making any changes. So what I did is basically instead of this place, I used set values after this step. Okay, I use it after this block actually. Inside there, I use the same condition. The formula remains the same, like the set name is not equal to this. If it is, then yes, it's, if it's not, then it's no, right? And in the next data raptor, I added a condition here, like you should only fire this data raptor when the changes happen, right? So let's test, and yeah, let's test, and then we will probably add one more screen, and then we will check the differences. If it is making any call, then what, how much difference it will load to show the page. And if there's no call, then how it will show. Let's check that after this. So this is the change. We have made the check for this value. So you can see here, this is the value basically of the name. And when we do the next without any changes, you can see the is change parameter is showing as no. Okay, let's clear the data and change the name of the account again, then see. Okay, now let me change this, and when I do the next, you will see there is a lag. There is a spinner which was showing. Why? Because this time it make a server call and run this data raptor, and this time the change is also true. So this is the behavior. This is how we basically control our data raptor to make unnecessary updates. Okay, so the set value is also used for that. Now, one more thing that we did yesterday is in the initial initial load data raptor, what we did is here we defined a object in as contact, and we retrieve, we pass the account ID, whatever we have used in the first data raptor, first object entry, right? So the key point here is, let me repeat that again. Here, whatever, let's say there is an account and there is a contact. I mean, they are in a spatial lookup relationship, right? So in that, what is, let's say in particular node, you want to retrieve all its child, then you don't need to specifically pass any hard-coded ID. You can directly refer the object path name here, and you can directly type the ID, right? So that means you can directly call all the child information by using a separate entry here. But in most of the cases, in live projects, we don't do that. Why? Because in most of the time, let's say you want couple of fields of contact information, right? You want maybe on account object you need couple of fields, because here we are showing some 5 6 fields related to the account, right? And if possible, I mean, it totally depend on business. If possible, we can delete this entry, right? And in the contact, we can directly call fields of accounts. Getting it? So what I mean by that, let me write this. Instead making two SQL call, select ID, comma, whatever fields that we have made here, account ID, industry, right? Some fields from account, we can do this. Select ID from contacts, and inside this we can use account dot account city. Right. So, I mean, the same thing that how we do in Apex classes, we reduce the number of SQL calls because we want to merge it in one go. So if your business permits, I mean, if you're not specifically handling this information, you can go with this. The good part here is in Apex class, since this entire query is a part of one object, right? But here you can break your JSON in such a way that this information can be tagged to a different node and this information can be tagged to a different node. Okay, so think it wisely before you make two server calls, because two server call will take more than one, I mean more than time. So if it's always better to merge your SQL query in a one object, right? That's why I was stressing on this JSON part, because here you have a flexibility. You can do this. You can let's say if in that case we are not making this call, in that case how your JSON will look like, probably this, like here will be an order entry, right? Here will be an order entry and there will be a text. But at this moment, at if you're passing like this, it will be difficult for you to identify whether this is an account field or a contact field. Maybe in a UI, when you are actually differentiating that, it will be some clumsy job for you to identify which one you are passing. So in that case, you can actually break the node and divide it into that way as well, right? Because we have that flexibility. We will discuss about it when we go in further classes, how we actually merge those into one and how we will break the JSON into one. But yeah, in short, if your work is okay with this script, you should go with this. But in most of the time, you need to avoid making another call. Now, let's discuss one interview question. Why, if we are following this structure, I mean, you can literally doesn't require any parent node, right? You can directly pass this to your Omni script. This script you can directly pass your Omni script, right? Then why we are preferring this option? And if we are preferring this option, then what are the changes that we need to do to the Omni script? That's the first interview question that usually people ask. They give you a sample of 2, 3 JSON, and then we'll ask you which one you prefer. And you need to tell them and you need to justify why you want to go with this or why you want to go with this. Okay, so the answer here is we basically make a object oriented thing where we have to just specify which object we are calling, and it is also something which is ease of use, where if you will be confused on which field you are referring to. Let's say if this is an account, this is the name, and here we also write the name, then it will be very confusing for us to actually judge which name is belonging to which object. That's why we use this entry. So that is the answer of why we are selecting this. Okay, the next is what are the changes that we need. Wherever you select a parent node, you have to declare a block. Okay, if you're not declaring a block, it will not work properly. Okay, so previously, if you are dealing with this JSON where there's no parent, okay, you can do anything with the help of steps. There's no required to add a block, but it will be more convenient if we use block here. Okay, we'll tell you why. Okay, so this is few questions that people in general ask. What is this and what are those? The other question is what is the use of, I mean, why you in which cases we need to use merge queries. Let's say if we are in a contact and the same example that I was giving, we are in a contact and we don't want to make an account query. In that case, yes, we can do that, but there is a problem. what is the problem? Let me tell you. Let's say, let me revert it. Uh, yeah, this is a information related to the account. Okay, let's say there is a name as well. Let me show you. This is the account name. Okay, these two fields are related to the account and these three fields are related to the contacts. And let's say we are making a query where account ID is something. Okay, and this is returning, let's say 10 records. So in that case, your JSON will be changed to this. There will be a node and there will be a node, and inside that, this information will get repeated. Okay, so 10 times. So unnecessary, these two fields will be common across all your uh, contact fields, right? Because they are belonging to the same object. They are belonging to the same entry. It's just you're querying 10 times. So this entry will always remain the same here. Right, so that is the problem of dealing with something which is having a parent record. But again, if it is something that you can handle in your OmniScript, then yes, you need to go with this path, or you can also make a two queries, right? That's totally be subjective. Now, again, which one will we should pick is totally depend on the total number of total when you actually make a call here, there is a something called total remote timeout. So what is the total remote timeout that your query is taking? That is not depend on that. And also how much data you are querying, that is also depend on that. So it is a trade-off whether you want to deal with this information where there is a some repetition in some of the field, or you want to deal with two queries. Okay. So it's not written anywhere in the stone like we should always avoid this. It's again subjective, but how in general in projects we think is we track what is the total remote time it is taking. Okay, and what is more convenient way to handle this thing and display into the UI. These two parameters we will think before we change the definition of our node. And this thing we don't do frequently. We just set it one time. And if, yeah, I mean, you will not go and change your JSON structure all the time. It's just you probably add new fields, but yeah, changing the parent node and completely changing will cause us issues for this script and related scripts as well. Okay. So I think this discussion is enough to identify when you go with this option or when you should go with the merge syntax. Now let's talk about the today's topic, which is the multiple object, which is a list. So here, let's say we have configured this and now I'm doing a preview and see how the data is looking. So this is the difference between in JSON. This is the difference. If it is a single record, it will show everything in this curly brackets. But if it is a list, then it will show in a box. Okay, inside that you can see there is a repetition happened. Now let's display the same thing into OmniScript and see how it will show. So what we will do is we will in step 2 here we will list out all the contact information. Okay, let's see how we can do that. For that we need to go to the blocks. Okay, and here we need to drag a block. Okay, the name of the block needs to be the same of your parent node, which is contact. Here it should be contact and here should also be contact. Now we need to configure the name of the fields. For that we need to go to the input. The three fields, let's run it 3 times. The concept remains the same. We need to make sure the structure, it is contact and then its last name. Same goes for first name. Needs to follow. And then the email. Now the problem here is similar thing we did for account as well, but account cannot handle. I mean, let's first check what will happen if we use the same thing. I mean, we use block to handle the lists. Yeah, you can say even in the back end, if I go to the debug, here you can say the data that is written by data Raptor is having multiple accounts, sorry, multiple contacts, right? But it only showing one contact here, right? It is only showing one contact. Why this is? Because we have used normal block. We have not used anything special to handle the list of blocks. So you can see there is an option called repeat. So if your information is if you're dealing with a list, you just need to check this repeat option here. And then you can click here, clear the data. You will see this time this time it is repeating multiple times and it is showing all the related lists. Okay. So this is one way to deal with list records. In most of the time, you will not use block to render a list because you can see there is a contact one, contact two, contact three, and unnecessary space is also there. So most of the time you will use a table instead of using this, right? So for that, there is something called edit block. We use edit block in that purpose where we actually need to show a list. Edit block is a uh, actually to understand complete features of edit block, we need to know the remote actions and all. So there is a dependency. So I'm not discussing this at today's class. I think 3 classes or 4 classes needed to reach to that topic. But yeah, this edit block is used to render the multiple object data. It will show you a list, and in this edit block, you can also edit, delete, and create a new entry. Like similar ways how we do it in a Salesforce list views, right? If I go to the Salesforce list view, so here there are option you can create a new record. You can also edit this, like inline editing is there, and there's a couple of fields that you can show. Other fields, if you want to see, you need to click on this or you need to click on edit. So all those features you can actually do in edit blocks. We will discuss this. And to make perform a edit operation, update operation, and create operation, you need to make a server call. And to make a server call, you need to call a remote action. So we haven't discussed that, so I'm not discussing this time. Okay. So let's discuss one more topic here. You can see this industry. This is a pick list, right? But here it is showing as a text. So let's do one thing. Let's first discuss about how we can convert the pick list as a normal entry, and then probably we can take a look on edit block as well. Okay. And we will show you, I will show you why there is a need of block, why we can't add anything into the steps there. So let's check that, how we can use industry as a normal pick list. So for that, what we need actually, just a second, I will be back. Yeah. So let's see how we can convert a text into a pick list. For that, you need to go to the inputs. Okay, here you will see an option called select, right? Just use the select option wherever you want. Let me actually make it one. Also, let's hide it from that. Okay, let's use the same. So this select option, what let's discuss about some variables that it needs to configure this. Here you will see in as a source, there are three options. One is custom. Okay, this custom is something which require you to set a basically class variables. Okay, let me tell you what it is. So see, manual is something where you just need to pass the value and its label, it will be shown as a value. Like let's say there is a ABC, yeah, use ABC. I can use another XYZ. And if I go to the preview, okay, so you can directly see whatever we have hard coded is now displaying here. But in most of the cases, we don't want to hard code, right? So, and let me clear it and let's go to the account object. In most of the cases, we don't hard code anything, right? We want whatever there in the in Salesforce fields, we want to display the same here, right? So if I go to the industry, all these pick list values we want to show directly there because there's so many how much we will hard code and what if someone change the definition. So for that they provided us a option where you can directly select object here. Okay, in object you just need to first type the object name. In our case it is account and we need to use dot. Okay, there we just need to provide the name of the field. Here it is industry, we will use industry here. Okay, nothing, no other changes we need to do. And if I go back to preview, you will see all those fields will be get called. Okay, you will see all those will be get called. There's one more thing actually. If you go back to script configuration, something called fetch picklist values at script load. So what is this basically? See, the time when user is working, this picklist information will be cached. Okay, so at this moment, let's say I opened this first time, so all this information will get cached. Now, if I refresh my script again, it server will not make a separate call to load this information. It will use browser cache feature and display these things. But meanwhile, let's say you edit something into backend. Here you change the definition. So maybe a possibility that this will not show because we are caching this information, which is also good because it saves time. It's also improve the efficiency. It also improve the loading time. All those things it will work. But what if there's a possibility that you're frequently changing pick list values and users reported that whatever changes you did is not reflecting in their UI. You can't tell users to clear your cache and all. So they provided as a native option, you need to click on this option, fetch picklist value at script load. So what this option will do, it will always call backend logic to load the information of picklists, right? So if you're changing it frequently, they don't need to hard refresh their page. It will be available for them at a load on, right? And most of the time we don't check this checkbox because it will impact the performance because at at this time there's only one pick list, right? Maybe in your flow there are 10 pick lists, so it will load all those 10 pick lists at the script load, right? So it may be a performance issue you will encounter. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second is, what if you don't want to configure this thing from any object, you have written your own wrapper or somewhere you are retrieving the data through Apex. In that case, you need to use custom. Okay. When you select custom, you need to define the proper source of your Apex class. Okay. And then what is the variable that is holding this information? Well, we have not discussed how we can call a Apex class. So I am skipping that part to how to do that. But when we discuss about Apex classes, we will also check this option. Okay, so just giving you a background, this custom is used when we have a wrapper structure where we have our own set of values that we want to retrieve based on user selection or any custom rule that we want to call. Okay, in that case, we need to also make a server call here. Now, the other option that we basically use in when we set a picklist value is what if there is a controlling field. I mean, there is a dependent picklist structure. Like there's one picklist which is dependent on another picklist. So in that case, what you need to do is you need to first configure all dependent picklists. Let's say there are two dependent picklists. Let me check if there is any dependent picklist in account. Hmm. Dependency, industry ownership. Let's create one dependency. It's industry. And let's say status. So what I'm doing is I'm actually creating a dependency to show. Let's say for industry banking, we want these three, two, and yeah, save. So let's go back and see if we have configured this thing correctly. Yeah, so based on this value will show. Used for industry banking. Yeah. For banking, it will show these three fields. So what we will do first, we will so here the controlling field is industry, the controlled field is status. Okay, so this whenever we configure this option, we need to make sure all these two fields we will return first from our data raptor. Okay, so let's do that. Let's follow this step one by one and then we'll check. So we need to go back to the data raptor. This data raptor need to go to the output and we need to call the status here, right? So let's add the binding count. Status is the field name or it's API. Okay, here let's status, yeah, account status, and we'll use the same here. So in account there is a status. Now let's go back to our script. Here we need to drag the status again, and all both fields need to be this time in select. Okay, don't use text, otherwise it will not work. So I'm dragging the status here. Okay, same config. So here we don't need to make any changes because this is the controlling field. So we don't need to set anything into the source here. It should work like that only. Here we need to make status. That is status. Change this thing to object. Use count dot status. Okay. Now you need to click on the controlling source. So what is the controlling source? Again, you can actually use those options. You can call a apex class and you can also call an object here. So in our case, it's object. Here we need to use count dot industry, right? Industry. And here we need to put the name of the variable that is holding the dependent controlling field. Okay, in our case, it's industry. So yeah, let me recap what I have done is, so first step we need to follow is we need to make sure our data raptor is returning both pick list values. One is the controller, one is the controlling. Okay. Next thing is we need to go to our Omni script and drag both fields in the same block. Okay, this is also required. You need to drag it in the same block. Why? Because if it is in a different block, it will not work because at that time DOM will not able to find this option. Okay, needs to be the same block, but it's not required to be in sync. You can use it first and you can use it last, but yeah, needs to be on the same block. Then first you need to configure your main field, which is the controlling field. This will be the controller field. Basically, you need to configure the main option and nothing you need to do here. Now here you need to go into the controlling fields. Here you need to select the object, give the API name of your field in source. Okay. And in element, you need to give the variable name that is holding the information in omniscripts. Okay. Let's go and take a preview to check if it is working. You will see there is a status which is blank. In our case, we need to use education. What? Banking. Okay. Okay, it's not showing status industry.
I think there is a spell mistake. Account column industry.
Yeah, right. Let me use the same thing here. And also copy this. And let's do the preview. When you do the next, you will see the status, and here you need to select the banking. It's not showing, something's not correctly configured. This is object, this is object, this is object, this is status. Here we need to put the source tree list value selected class. This should also be the status. Just a second, let me check what is wrong here. Or maybe I think we need to check that checkbox here. It should be industry. Match this to. Okay, I will check this thing offline why it is not working. Maybe a org issue because there's nothing tricky here. Let me check the configuration again. Here it is object, nothing given here. In the status, this is the status, this is the object, and here we need to tag the source. Take the source value specific to the object, and then we need to pass the industry. Correct only. Status, yeah, we need to check this checkbox probably. Okay, I will check this why the value is not coming. In the next class, I will show you what is the problem here. But in general, these are the settings that we need to do. Okay, so we need to specify the object and then the value of the source. And here we need to again do the same configuration. Here we need to actually define the configuration related to the controlling fields. So yeah, I'm not sure why it is not working. I will probably check this thing. Maybe it's because of some org issues. Okay, so next thing here, let's go back to the set value. So here we have maintained the staging table for one record. I mean for a single record, right? So let's do one thing. Let's maintain a staging table for list as well, because we have now contact which is in a list mode. So let's see how we can make a staging table for list values and how we can use set values to handle a list. In that case, you need to first specify the label here. Let's say the in our cases we want to use the contact. So for that we need to here specify the contact. Okay. And the moment you do, it will simply select a block. So wherever you deal with a block, you cannot make, you cannot directly specify something. You need to go here and change it to normal edit properties, right? And here, wherever you deal with that list condition, make sure you in here you use this, okay? Because list will can't hold one information here, right? They need to be specific in that mode only. And here, after this, let's take the reference of previous values that we have used. Here we need to specify the name of the object, sorry, variable. So let's create a variable here. Use set contact email. So what this will do, it will store all the values of email fields that are written by this contact. So in our case, let's say there are 5 contacts, so it will hold all those 5 emails here, right? In that case, again, we need to use the merge syntax. We need to use this, and then we need to use merge syntax. Inside that, we need to configure the exact value, which is coming from contact, semicolon, and first name. No, email. Okay. So let's do this. It is not working. Maybe, yeah, let's leave it. Now let's go to the preview, clear the data. And check it. Use Acme. Do the next. And then you will see the variable that we have created is storing all those values, right? Set contact email. Similar ways, you can go there and configure the other values as well. Let's also try this. What if we use entire contact instead of using separating this in a specific variable? Let's try this and configure all in one variable. Let's see if it is working or not. It's not clearing. Set contact, it created a set contact, and here you can see it stored all the caching information. Even now, if I go and change anything here, it will not reflect back here. So see, this type of things we can directly go and change in set values. But the problem, like what, let me show you what I did is I removed the specific node and assign everything to this object, to this variable, which is set contact, right? And you can go to the preview and you can see the values here will get assigned directly in set contacts. all the values are get assigned. But the problem here is since we have directly use the parent node and assign everything into it, now to retrieve the value from this node will be a challenging job, right? Because it is not in a proper shape. So that's why you need to go back and assign the specific node only. Okay, getting it? Why? What I mean by that? See, we have assigned direct parent node. We assign all the values that are written to this node, to this variable. The variable hold all this information, but the purpose of using set values is to cache the information and use it when it's required. In that case, we need to actually specify. So at that time when we actually use it, it will be a challenging job for us because it is now controlling, it is not in a proper shape, it is returning all the data that is stored in this node. Okay, so for the best practices and for ease of use, we need to actually specify email here. Okay, and there we can directly specify email. I mean, if you use all those things, velocity will never stop you and it will show all whatever you have configured. Okay. Um, One more thing you can notice, the background just here it is blue. And if I make any mistake, it will be in red. And you can see there is a cross mark also there. Okay, so this editor will only tell you if you are making a mistake in creating the JSON. So let me remove it. And here we can use first name and last name. And the last name. Now let's go and take a preview. And once you do all those changes, you can see it is grayed out and it is saying object. Okay, so yeah, if you have any complex setup that is not you can do in functions, you need to manually go and change the JSON and there it will support. So here we are actually making this variable so bulky and we are storing so much information in that, right? In most of the time you probably not do, but yeah, just for a reference purpose to give you a concept how you store a list in a set value, you need to follow this structure, right? Let's go back and clear the data and see how it is showing. Okay, in structure, if you go here, you will see first name is now coming in one array, last name is coming in one array, and email is coming in one array. So this time it is more easy to obtain those values and make any rule on top of that instead of storing in one place, right? You getting it? What I did? I basically initially I created one variable and assigned all this information in one variable, like all this contacts and all in one variable. Now I have changed this and assign it in a specific nodes. Like email, we have one variable. For first name, we have one variable, and last name we have one variable. Okay, and this is nothing but a list. If you want to retrieve this information, you need to consider this variable as a list. Okay. Any questions on it? Okay. Let me give you a scenario where I actually use this set value, where I basically use this thing to store the entire information is. I was working in a project where the entire path is controlling three fields. I mean entire JSON. I need to store three fields. These you can consider as a I mean, let's say this is the complete JSON that path is returning and it is in list format, and I need to take care about these three fields. Let's say first name, last name, and email. These are the three information that I need to cache. Okay, in that case, and there are so many unnecessary or unrelevant information as well that path is returning. Okay, that basically third party is returning. And to handle this scenario, when you have so many unnecessary information that your third party is returning, we have an option in data raptor where we can control this. Okay, but we have not discussed this because it's a separate topic. But even after using this as well, you have some notes that probably needed for users, but there's no requirement to stage that. Okay, so in that case, you probably need to select couple of rows to cache it. Let me show you what are those information. When you actually deal with any customer with who's let's say US customer, okay, and you have some sensitive information. What are those sensitive information is, let's say their phone number, their email address, their local address. Okay, so whenever you deal with this information, you normally sign a contract with US government that you are making those information as secure. Okay, and you are making a server call which actually retrieving this information. Okay, in Salesforce we have one option which is called shield encryption. So whenever we enable shield encryption, we need to maintain a, not shield encryption. Whenever we actually deal with this information, we need to maintain a staging table that hold the actual information of the user. Why? Because if user, let's say if user change their email and they forgot about it and they come up with us and says, hey, I haven't changed this email, why it get changed? In that case, we don't have any option, hey, you change this because this is our the thing. So what we do is, we whatever third party is returning to us, we store it in a different variable. We call it a staging table, which user will never see, but we keep the original information with us only. In that case, those staging table is not something that store so much huge data. They will only store some 2 or 3 or 5 fields max. Depends on whatever information you want to store with. In that case, we need to go with set values and we configure this thing like that only. Okay, we basically go and configure one field for email, one field for first name, last name, maybe some address information as well. And after the entire transaction, when we ask user to actually submit it, we maintain a different variable and commit those values as well. Okay, so now we have a cache information where we can actually make a difference between both of the informations. Okay, whenever any escalation or something happen, we can refer them this object and we can say this is the original data that is written from that particular server. And in Salesforce, we can store those information as a sealed encryption. Okay, getting that. That's why I basically try to show you a list, because in most of the time you will get a list of data. Okay, and this is for our purpose. What we have learned is something which is on the account object. We are making one call and then we are retrieving all the contacts. Maybe in real time project, there will be no one account. There will be always a lists that you need to read. Let's say all contact information. Maybe you are making any insert operations or something which let's say in a chunk of data you're receiving from a third party, and there you need to probably do those steps. So for that purpose you also need to use the set values here. Okay, the concept remains the same. For one object you can directly go and configure the steps. For list of objects you need to go and configure this thing like that only. Any questions on it? Intention is clear, right? Okay, let's do one thing now. Let's go to the groups and explore the option of edit blocks. Well, let's do one thing. Let me first drag another step. And it's inside another step. Let's directly configure the contact information that are written by the user. Okay, now we have a list of contacts, right? Let's see what will happen if we directly configure contacts without any block or edit block. For that, I'm making this thing as a one. Using as a contact. Okay, we have removed the fields. Now going next, you can see it is only showing one information here, and there is no option to actually get the information as a repeat mode, right? So that is the problem. If you directly use a list inside a step, it will only show one. That's why I was telling you, you have to deal with the block only, because in a block you have option to create a repeat thing. Okay, now we have explored block already here. Let's delete this and drag a edit block. Okay, and here let it save. Let me drag those inside this. Okay, and we need to do the preview now. So what I have done is, instead of using block, I have direct a edit block section, and that edit block you can find directly into the same group section. This is edit block, right? We have direct the same thing here. Now let's make a call and here do the next. You will see edit block is not showing, but nothing it is displaying into it. Why it is not displaying? Because we have not configured this in that way. Let me do one thing, contact info. Copy this and change the definition here, make it contact and make it contact info. And here you can see there is checkbox, right? Let's not check it. Let's first see how it is showing and then we'll explore that option as well. Now you will see nothing is displaying into the UI, but you can still see there are 4 rows get created. So this contact info, whatever we have dragged into the input edit block, it is nothing but a table. It will always show you as a table. Okay, so whenever you deal with a list of data, in most of the time you will use this edit block only, right? Why? Because this edit block will give you flexibility where you can edit, delete, and create a new record. And you don't need to write any code, or you don't need to fire any data raptor for that, right? You can consider this thing as a lightning data services where we can do everything without making any server call, making any DML operation without making any server call. So similar ways, they also provide us an option where we can configure multiple fields here, and this will be displayed into the UI, and you don't need to take care about edit and delete. It will automatically take care by velocity. It's just we need to configure that. So let's see that. First, we need to check this checkbox. So whatever check, let's say there are 10 fields. Let's go back to the normal list view. See here in a list view, we only configure some bullet fields, which actually tells user what is this account contains, maybe billing, phone type, and alias name. Based on the business settings, we configure the list views. Similar ways, but if I click on this or I click on edit, it now this time it will show all those fields, right? All those fields it will show. Similar ways here as well. Here you will only configure, you will only check those checkbox which field you want to see into the UI. Let's say we don't want to see the email field on the UI. So when you do this in your table, only 2 fields will be shown, first name and the last name. Let's do that. So here only 2 fields will be shown, first name and the last name. But we have list of other fields as well, like email. Maybe in real time you have 10 more fields. So you need to click here, edit, and then all your 10 fields will be shown here. And you actually don't need to take care about this pop-up, how this pop-up is working and how it will show. It will automatically taken care by this edit block only. Okay, so all those fields will be shown here. You don't need to fire any data raptor if you want to modify those things, right? It's just you need to check this checkbox and all your information will be get displayed. Now let's talk about some other elements that are there here. In most of the time, probably you will not give option to delete it. That's why they provided this option. You can also uncheck those checkboxes. And now if you go, it will be now treated as a uh, normal table. There will be no edit or create or anything, right? Nothing will be there. You can say this will be blank. Even we can also control this to hide this row level actions. And this time it will be simple like that only, right? If I go back, the next thing is the SVG icons. So in Salesforce, I hope you already know something called Lightning Data Services, right? In Lightning Data Services, there are icons. Okay, there are multiple icons basically exist in Lightning Data Services. So all those icons we can actually use here as well. Okay, if we want to demonstrate or we want to show any icon, we can directly configure those icon here. Let's say there is a lookup field and we want to configure a icon, we can directly go and provide this name for utility or some other things as well. Let's say there is utility, there are other things. I'm just checking this. Yeah, this document type, utility, custom, action, all those types you can define here. Okay, and whatever the label name of those SVG icons, you can define this thing here as well, right? All those things you can do here. The next thing is mapping, right? Here, let's say we have configured first name, but you also need to tell your data raptor, sorry, in the backend action that this field which we have named as first name is actually belonging to which object. You need to configure it. It's belonging to contact object, right? Let's check the contact. You need to first define what is the name of the object. It is contact object. Next thing that you need to do is you need to now tell your first name. Again, the right side will automatically shown. We have not made anything. Why? Because this is not rating it from here. It will show all the variable names that are belonging to the edit block. So we can define a first name here. And now this is your Salesforce fields, custom and native fields. So here first name is this. We can again click other, and here we can define last name. Need to use last name, and for the email, here we need to use email. You can see there is a duplicate key option. So similar ways how in Salesforce we have, wherever we define a email operation, we need to identify, we need to tell in our query that what is the identifier of this particular row. Most of the time it is record ID, right? Similar ways here as well, we need to configure the record ID. As of now, we in contact record, we have not queried the account ID in the data raptor. But if you want to perform the delete and edit operation, you need to make something as a unique key. Let's say here, if we have any ID, we can define ID, bind it to the ID, and then we need to check this mapping field. Then when you do all those configuration and when you go and edit your data, your edit block table, it will identify which particular row you are editing. Okay, but it will not work. Why? Because we need to configure here one remote actions. Okay, that remote action will make a server call, and that particular class is already a part of your velocity package, so you don't need to take care about it as well, right? So whatever changes you do here will get committed to your Salesforce database once you configure the classes. Okay, we will again visit this edit block in maybe couple of classes. After a couple of classes, we will again go and check all those options. I'm just giving you a reference, like what is the purpose of edit block. And when you have a list of information and you want to retrieve your information, you want to display in a list, you need to use the edit block only. Okay, so yeah, that is the intention. And this edit block will only work when you have a step. You can't add edit block outside somewhere. That is also something which you need to take care. The edit block can only be dragged inside a step, because step is something which is a UI element. Although even not the edit block, all the UI element you cannot drag outside, like how we drag the step functions and how we drag the data raptors, right? These are the backend actions only. Any questions on it or anything in general you want to discuss?
So here, say like right now we are showing two or three columns on a table. For example, if we want to add more columns, so like in future, if you, I'm thinking it's not like a one-time development. Once then automatically our component won't work. So every time if we want to add a new field, here itself we have to come and modify it.
Correct,
That's the
correct, right,
dependency I can see here. We cannot
right.
make this like a dynamic one, like one-time development, store everything in a custom setting, like what are the column to be displayed, store it in a custom setting, or metadata, then behave dynamically. That's the kind of things is not possible here. If we want to add new fields or things, we have to come here and configure it.
Right, right. You need to change it and drag it here. But the max level of field in a UI you can display is 5. But let's say there are 10 fields you want to configure. You can do all those 10 fields, but all those 10 fields will only be available when you click on edit button. When you click on edit, that pop-up will open and then you can see all those fields. But yes, to answer your question, there's no custom settings like how we do it in our Apex classes. We maintain a custom settings or metadata, and from there we retrieve this information. So yeah, that is not possible here. We need to go here and manually enter those fields.
Okay, and this configuration cannot be accessible in Apex class too. I mean,
Apex class, I'm not getting what you want to use. Sorry, can you repeat your question?
sorry, I'm sorry. So what I was saying, like this configuration, whatever we are defining here, will store as a JSON in backend,
Mhm.
and we are getting an access to that. I think no, it's wrong actually. So I'll take back.
Yeah,
So
right,
it's
right. I got it. What you're saying. So see,
yeah,
when you can do this thing, see, we can do that. We can read the JSON. That's why they make everything in an object oriented way. We can read the JSON. We can write our own custom code as well. Even when we discuss about EPC and when we discuss about order decomposition process, there are some cases where we need to write our own logic on the on that by reading their own JSON that they are creating. But here, if I talk about UI, you don't need to do that. Why? Because this is something that they already had taken care of,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So
Mm,
you can directly do it, but yes, we logically we can do that. We can read the JSON and write our own custom skin on the top of it.
yeah.
Okay, and those save and edit delete these things, even for that also they need a remote action to fire a apex class and do their job. Like if you edit it, they need a salesforce class which actually run the logic and do the edit part, but that class they have already created and it is a part of package only. So you just need to configure a remote action and call that particular method. It will be automatically taken care of. But we have not discussed about remote action, so that's why we will come up with this edit block again when we after discussion of remote actions. Okay, any other questions? Okay, then we are good to close. Just do one thing today, just explore all the JSON part, because understanding of JSON is very important when you actually deal with your live projects. If you are aware like how you can create JSON or what are the different ways which you handle the JSON, it will be always easy for you to do further steps. Because having a background, having a developer background, we always think like if we are calling a contact, it will always be part of inside account, right? But here you can play it 360-degree. You can make this thing as well. You can also configure, you can bypass complete account tree as well, right? You can call everything inside the contact. But yeah, you should aware how you can do the changes and your changes, how it will get impact to the omniscripts. And this thing you need to make sure you will only do at the time of creation only, right? So you need to think wisely at that time, because if let's say you move everything to the production and they start using it so aggressively, and then you find okay, we can modify the JSON for performance issues, or we can resolve some latency in the system, then you again need to go to this first step and again you need to go and modify those JSONs. When I was fresher, I did so many times, so that's why I always uh, prefer to stress this point more, because that is the entry point. If you made any mistake, you have to rework again, and there are chances of making human errors. And yeah, so better to stress at this level only, right? Okay, let's break today and start the other discussions tomorrow. All right. Thanks, guys. I will upload. I forgot to upload the recording for the last class. I will upload it today, and I will also share the function lists, this function references today. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Yes. Yeah.